Thank you, Sue. You know, it's been interesting. Even last week's chats and even this week's presentations, it's been fascinating to listen to everybody. And even though that the topics are so different, there are these points where there's points that intersect across the presentations and then support each other. And it made me think about something that Nokubongo said last week, which really I absolutely loved, and it really resonated with me. And that was, please forgive me if I'm butchering your phrase a little bit, Nokubongo, but it went along the lines of, I decided to make myself more visible to myself. Am I getting it right there, Nokubongo? And I sat back and I thought, what does that really mean? To make myself more visible to myself. And to me, and actually perfectly complemented what I was going to talk about, because that said to me, I need to understand myself and get to know myself more. All right. So and during this discussion, we're going to have a little bit of a chat about the connection between great leadership and self-awareness. Okay. So why? So self-awareness is empowering because it arms you with knowledge to be able to make better decisions, better choices, to be able to learn and to be able to grow. Now, I'm going to pose 3 questions, 2 or 3 questions. Now, these are the kind of questions I regularly ask during my training sessions. Okay. If I were to say to you, and probably this group, I might get a slightly different response, but if I were to say to you, if I were to ask you right now what your top 3 strengths are, would you be able to tell me off the top of your head? Don't think about it too much. Good. And if I were to say to you, what are your top 3 development areas? Because we don't use weaknesses in this environment, we use development areas, right?
I agree, Natalie.
Okay, so yes, exactly. You'd be able to tell me what your top 3 weaknesses are. Yeah. Let me tell you something that I've discovered, and I've asked these questions, these types of questions many times, and the result is always the same. Of a group of 20, there might be 2, maybe 3 people who can tell me what their strengths are. Of a group of 20, I'll have maybe 5 or 6 that can tell me what their developmental areas are, which is very, very interesting. And we need to sit and ask ourselves, hang on a sec, why are people not thinking or so unaware of what the kind of the basics in terms of self-knowledge is? And I think the reason is that we tend to jump on that hamster wheel that is life. We jump on it, we put our heads down and we go. We don't look up, we don't look left, we don't look right. You know, life, this thing called life that we're doing is very hectic. If it's not working your 8 to 5, it's paying the bills, it's sorting out the kids' lunches and sports, it's updating your TV, your car license, renewing passports, paying fines, sorting out the leak in the roof, and you just go. So as a result, people do not take the necessary time to sit back and really reflect and go, what am I really about? What really excites me? What would I rather stick hot pokers up my nose than do? What gets me leaping out of bed? What am I really, really good at? What do I hate doing? What do I bring to the party that nobody else does? So I think that self-awareness is and according to an article written that was published in the MIT Sloan Management Review called How to Be a Better Leader, self-awareness was cited as the most critical kind of element to develop in order to be a successful leader. And successful leaders are very aware of what their strengths are, their natural abilities, talents, gifts, but also their shortcomings. And they know how to leverage those strengths and gifts and how to plug the holes of the shortcomings, right? So as an example, if I were a project lead, I'm leading a big project. Now I know that one of my strengths and one of my gifts is I'm really, really good at motivating, inspiring, getting people, on the going. So I would leverage that. I would use those strengths to generate interest and excitement and energy around the project. However, I also know about myself that this particular project needs someone with a skill set that is very detail oriented. and that ain't me, right? That is not me. So I can make a decision. I can say, you know what, is it going to be beneficial to me to actually go and spend the time and effort developing that ability to be more detail oriented? Cool, I could do that. Or does it make more sense for me to get someone onto that project that has already got that natural ability, that really enjoys and is good at the detailed stuff? Because that's where your discernment as a leader comes in, right? So self-awareness really kind of, it empowers all of the other leadership characteristics or skills, because when we are aware of the thoughts, words, and actions that are coming through us, particularly the actions, because we need to be very aware of what our actions or the impact of our actions is on other people. And the more we are able to make a positive impact on those people, the better we are able to lead. So let's have a look at a couple of little tips and tools, some strategies on how can you become more self-aware. The first thing is that I want to say, and a couple of people have said this and I want to back it up, but it's not about the position, it's about the person. I'm sure we can all agree that we've experienced people in management positions that were horrible leaders. Good at managing, they can do the stuff, they can get the operational stuff done, great, but not really great leaders. And at the same time, I've also come across great leaders that have got no interest in, taking on the drama of a management role. They would rather they influence from the side. So leadership really, when we're talking about it's about the person, it's about a set of principles and the behaviors that get developed and then get delivered to consistently. The next one is, I'm sure you're all familiar with this phrase and with Socrates, who was a philosopher in ancient Greek, and he was quite a bit of a troublemaker. But he was asked, if you could reduce all of your philosophical teachings into one, what would you say? And he said, know thyself. So how do we get to that point where we can say, I know myself? We need to be able to be very aware. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at the comments there, Andreas. So we need to be aware of what is going on internally. What are our thoughts? What are our feelings? But also aware of what are those external triggers that allow us to respond in a certain way. Okay, and again, we need to think, why do I do the things that I do? Why do I react to certain people the way that I do? And once you start really becoming conscious of the patterns of your thoughts and your feelings and your triggers, you can start doing things that mitigate any kind of negative behavior around them. So as an example, if I know, which is true, that I'm triggered by traffic in the morning and people showing no respect for red robots and people driving in emergency lanes, it drives me absolutely wild. If I get into the office, I know, don't schedule meetings, with stakeholders or with anything first thing in the morning, because I'm likely to be irritated. All right, you're getting where I'm going with that. Feedback. Gather trusted feedback is another really, really, really important self-awareness tool. An indicator of low self-awareness is people who are not aware of their blind spots. In other words, the things that they are doing, behaving, or doing on a consistent basis that might be impacting negatively on how they're perceived, or just on other people. I'm going to share a personal example with you. When I was working in corporate, one of my team decided she was going to leave and go and pursue her dream of becoming a chef, which she duly does. Now, for those of you who will know that when you leave a big corporate, you have to go through an exit interview where you go and sit with HR and they ask you all sorts of questions like, why are you leaving us? Where are you going? Would you recommend us as a place to work? And, have you got any feedback from your manager and all that sort of good stuff? So to the question, do you have any feedback from your manager? While the majority of the feedback was really, really good, this girl said one thing that when I sat back about it and was like, what does she really mean by this? So to that, she said, Natalie tends to do things at the last minute. Now, when I sat back and I thought about it, it was a bit of an axe between the eyes, because I do things at the last minute. But I'm the kind of person, I do my best work under pressure. Do not give me long lead time on a project. I will leave things to the last minute, but that is when I get into flow. I'm able to block out all, I've knocked a bongo, I can see I've got a kindred spirit on my side. I can block out all other distractions, get super focused, and produce a really good quality piece of work. What I wasn't taking into consideration was the impact that that behavior was having on certain members of my team. Members of my team, so I'm quite happy operating in chaos. I'm kind of go by the fly by the seat of my pants kind of girl, right? What I wasn't taking into consideration was the impact that some of that behavior was having on certain members of my team who were, they liked that very orderly, very structured, liked to plan. So you can imagine me kind of swooping in at the last minute going, oh, we need to change X, Y, and Z, or we need to do this at the last minute to send these poor people into an absolute apoplexy. So I had to become very conscious of minimizing the impact or minimizing that behavior with certain members of my team in order to get the most positive results. I have to sit and plan and plan better and build in buffers for deadlines, etc. So feedback, highly recommend. If you are unaware of any kind of behaviors that you might be doing consistently that might be impacting you negatively on how you're being perceived or the impact that you're having on other people, I really would recommend that you go to somebody that you trust and say to them, is there something that I'm doing on a regular basis that is, not really positive? Okay. The next thing is listen, and a lot of people have already picked up on the importance of active listening, but I want to take it from a slightly different perspective in terms of self-awareness. What active listening does, and particularly active listening with empathy, is that it puts you in the shoes of other people and allows you to, with an open mind, experience or to explore different people's perceptions and different ways of doing things. And by doing that, what are we doing? The better we understand ourselves, the better we understand other people, the better we can lead. Okay. And lastly on those points is good leaders are good followers. There's far too many people, as I said, who are in positions of authority who don't know how to follow, because they are so concerned with holding on to control and wanting to be in charge of everything that they don't know when to hand over the reins and go, in this particular situation, you need to take control, and I will go with whatever it is that you say. Okay, so good leaders are also able to be good followers. So we've had a look at the why. Why is it important to develop your self-awareness? We've had a look at some ways of how you can do that. So let's have a look and just, what are the benefits? So a lot of studies have been done around the link between self-awareness, self-aware leaders and their impact on business. And what these studies have shown is, among others, I'm only going to list a few of the benefits, is that the teams that are led by self-aware leaders tend to have less conflicts because the leader creates an environment that is open, transparent, and honest, so that people feel like they can resolve their issues constructively within that environment. Also, there's a major link between self-aware leaders and the leading high-performance teams. Self-aware leaders tend to have teams that are able to not only meet but exceed their business objectives, cost cut, be more efficient, etc. And lastly, there was a very interesting study that was done by the Korn Ferry Institute, where they looked at 483 companies on the stock listed companies, and they compared their stock performance. And what they found was that there was a direct correlation between organizations that were performing strongly financially with employees that were more self-aware. So in summary, ladies and gents, At its core, self-awareness is not just another kind of tool for success. It really kind of reminds us of why we became leaders in the first place, and allows us to live, or to explore and to live the impact that we want to have as leaders, not only on our teams, our organizations, our communities, but on the world. And that's the kind of leader I want to follow. Thank you.